Welcome to Sloup, a climbing area where I spent so many days of my life, probably more than 200 days. I like it here. It's around 40 minutes drive from my hometown Brno, and it's part of a larger area called Moravský kras. There are a few different crags, but Sloup is probably the biggest crag in Moravský kras. It has many different routes, and it also hosts a 9B plus called Vasil Vasil that I first ascended back in 2013. Back then, it was the world's third 9B plus established after change in La Dura Dura.
To lezení v krase je dost specifické. Jednou jsme tady byli na Holštejně a dojel tady borec a říká, že by chtěl nějakou pěknou šestku, jestli by mnou poradili. Tak jsem se tak jako zamyslel a říkám, víš co, zvalte to a jděte někam jinam, tady žádná pěkná šestka není. Je to hodně do prstů. Na většině skal to máš tak, že používáš nohy třeba 60% a 40% ruce a tady v krasu je to, že používáš 70% ruce a 30% nohy. Jo, že je to prostě, je to fakt silové takové. A proto jako ti dobří a třeba taky Adam to mají tady rádi, že, protože tady můžou vznikat jako těžké cesty. No.
Vasil Vasil is a crazy route, and I think it's one of the main reasons I wanted to come and visit and climb the Czech Republic before I came last year. And it's the sort of mythical route that there's not much known about it. There was, I think, 2 photos posted of Adam after he did it, and maybe 5 seconds of video of him kind of in the crux in his change film. So all I knew was it's this short route that revolves around a crazy hard boulder problem. And other than that, I was just like, you know, having like, just looking at the 2 photos and just picturing, imagining what the moves could be. And I was like super psyched to come and actually just check it out. Unfortunately, I didn't have much time on it. I only actually, I think, had 1 day where I tried it. But on that day, it kind of like blew my mind as to how hard it actually was. Because I kind of assumed that, you know, the start wouldn't be too bad and then you'd get up to the boulder and the boulder would be really hard. But actually, the start was desperate too. I think it could have been like 8B sport. And I don't think I did all the moves. They're all like these huge dynamic moves. You're doing like massive moves off quite okay holds. But still, it was like hard to work out the right beta. And it felt honestly quite intimidating.
Feels strange to touch the holds after 10 years. So it's totally legendary place, and it's one of the highest concentration of hard moves in the world. Right down there are many hard boulder problems, including Ghost Rider or Brutal Rider. You can check them out on my YouTube channel. What I saw many years ago from this hill when I was a little kid was this obvious hold, which you can almost consider as a jug. And I was always thinking, like, are there some holds higher up? And you could like easily inspect it, because this is an 8B plus that I did when I was 11 years old. It's partly chipped. And so when I was lower down, after I sent this 8B plus, I was touching these holds, and yeah, I must say when I was 11, I thought like, no, that's impossible. But some years later, I thought like, no, it doesn't look too bad. I thought like, this pinch has to be good enough. There is a good heel hook, and that has to go. So I asked my friend to put this bolt in. Then I actually tried it, and I couldn't do any move. So I abandoned the project and returned, I think in 2012, when relatively quickly I found out that instead of using this pinch, it's better to bump again using that heel hook, which is quite far away. So you have to be relatively tall to make this work. And I thought like, yeah, this is gonna be a 9B and I can do it. But in the end, it took me way longer than I expected. And I completely underestimated how much the lower part adds into the boulder problem. I think this could be like one of the hardest single moves I've ever done on the route. I think if you start like this and do like this and like this, it could be maybe 8B move, 8B boulder problem. So the hard sequence starts from this jug, which may not look like a jug, but it's good jug, but you can't really rest in it because the foot holds are so low, so it's better to rest one move before in this dihedral. From this jug, you take a side pull only to put the heel hook here, which is absolutely crucial heel hook. It's really hard to get it 100% right, because then you do the whole crux move using this high heel hook as much as possible. So once you get the heel in, you match in the jug, you take this 2-finger, really small, sharp crimp. It's obviously really tiny like this, so the trick is to crimp it a little bit sideways and put the thumb like on the top and pull. It's not like a really extremely sharp edge, but there's so much pressure onto very tiny point of the skin that it feels really sharp, and it is sharp. You crimp the shit out of it and you go up. You go up to this very special pinch. So you can't really hold it like this, but you have to like shift your fingers kind of downwards. So you pinch it, but at the same time you pull down as if it was just a regular horizontal crimp. You still have the heel hook, you readjust your right foot, and that allows you to bump just high enough to get this crimp. And the hard part is like, it's so high that you never get it like controlled. You have to go a little bit dynamic and you have to be fast enough in crimping it. Once you get this crimper, I could still fall once.
Dělej!
You go into this thumb, which is not very good, go into this thumb, which is a bit better, and you go into this crimp, which is fairly okay, and then the route is basically over. There is maybe 7-8 boulder using this flat underclings and reaching a good crimp, and then it's probably a third class to go all the way to the top.
The actual crux, it comes from this really good hold. You put like a heel really far out, which is hard to place well. You go to possibly the worst hold I think I've ever tried to use in a sport route, this like sloping, tiny little sharp 2-finger edge. And from that you do this huge stab up with the left hand, and you come to this really shallow sloping, no friction limestone pinch. And then from there you have to like do another bump again with the left hand even higher to this bad sloping edge. From there you then do a couple, like 1 or 2 intermediates out, and then you go to like a better edge, and that's kind of the end of the crux. You can go into, I think the top was easier climbing. I did the top moves, and I think I did maybe that like bump out of it. But the big move off the crimp to the sloping pinch and the bump again, I just wasn't even anywhere close. And I think what's really cool about those moves, like I could kind of conceive of how they were possible, but I felt like I had no chance. But I feel like you need everything to come together. You need it to be perfect conditions, and you have to move perfectly and be strong enough. I feel like if you come slightly too far out from the wall, you would just ping off. If the holds are a bit too humid or your hands are a bit numb, you would also just like not be able to hold them and slip off them. So I think it's like an absolutely desperate boulder, and doing that after actually quite a hard intro is really impressive.
Nejlepší vzpomínku mám na něho, když jsem ho potkal ve Frťáku, když mi bylo asi 6 roků. A nelezl dlouho a prostě nemohl vylézt nějaký boulder a parádně se tam prostě vztekal, že to nemůže vylézt. A to mě zaujalo, jsem si říkal, piča, to je jako ten člověk prostě tohoto bere, ten má něco v sobě, jako, že ten by mohl být dobrý, no, někdy. Ale tak jako je lepší, než jsem si myslel.
Pojďme. Pěkně, pičo. A jestli jsme byli, co?
To bylo tak trapně.
6+, jo?
I was really happy to finally get it done. Maybe I wasn't as happy as after sending Change or Aduradura, because obviously these two routes are like big lines, but it was really, really close. And yeah, it's definitely one of the most groundbreaking routes I've ever done. And I was so happy that I decided to organize quite a big party. I invited quite a few friends, and thanks to this party, we got together with my 2-day wife, Eva, and it's been almost 10 years.
Jako on vylezl vlastně všechny cesty, co jsem kdy měl rozdělané tady v Krase, tak jako je dolezl a vlastně se ti strašně odbřemení, jo? Protože ty přece, když si rozděláš tu cestu, tak neseš tam to břímě, že to tam blokuješ a že to musíš vylézt nebo tak. A ve chvíli, kdy to někdo vyleze, tak vlastně jsi úplně odlehčený a jsi volný. takže jsem na to rozhodně rád.